is part of a series of kind of, I guess, online events that have been running all the way in the States. Then we ran one in Dubai, one in Germany, one in Latin America, and now we are obviously running the one in for APAC, which kind of obviously covers largely India, India to Australia, I guess. So it's probably a good way of kind of at least describing that. I'm extremely excited to do this with you guys, and I wanted to kind of take about 20, 30 minutes, not a long time, to kind of just kind of talk about things that are happening around us. But before we jump in, a little bit about myself. I was actually born in India. I grew up in Calcutta. I left India when I was 18 or 19, I guess. I didn't get into any of the IITs, and so I thought, like every other guy, I think at that age, I thought my life's over and it's game over. But so I left India to go to Moscow, and that was not a bright idea, I guess. It was like even worse than where I was. Actually, I went there to study, and I think I spent 2 years. I'm not sure what I studied, honestly. I have no idea. I think only thing I remember is like I had drank a lot of vodka and met a lot of women. And then I ended up in Provo, Utah, in the States. I transferred to a college over here called Brigham Young University. Obviously, the joke between vodka and BYU, which is a Mormon school, it's a nice change of atmosphere, I guess. I finished off my schooling there. Then I lived in Seattle for about 10 years, then the San Francisco Bay Area for another 10 years. And then I've been in Austin for the last, 9 months. But it seems like, 2020 has been a crazy year. So it seems kind of, completely different. I started QuestionPro back in 2005. And then I ran QuestionPro for about 5 years. Then I took a break and did a couple other startups. A couple of them worked, a couple of them failed miserably. Then I came back to run QuestionPro in 2015, and I've been kind of like having fun with the team over here. And we have a big presence in India. We have an operation in India that serves globally. Our engineering team is in India, and I think we've grown globally just as a company. I want to talk a little bit about the company itself. We're about 200 employees all up between everywhere, with I think the largest contingent being in India, and we service kind of the globe from there. Here in the States, we're in Austin. Although after COVID, we've been kind of hiring anywhere and everywhere, just like almost every other tech company here. We're not really focused on any one particular space. We find amazing people. We hire them wherever we can find them. And from a platform perspective, this is just a little bit more about our kind of regions, I think. And then we also have a fairly decent sized office in Europe. It's really primarily anchored in Germany, and also we service Latin America through our Mexico office. Really quickly, I want to talk a little bit about our product line and our vision around like what are the different kind of service offerings. I think from a product perspective that we anchor on. And we see the world in three different buyers that we service primarily. One is consumer insights and market research, so folks who are trying to figure out what to do into the future. And later on you'll hear from Dan. He kind of leads that business, and we have a kind of a strong presence there with amazing features like Gobble Granger, Conjoint, MaxDiff, heat maps. Really kind of looking at either pricing analytics or looking at what kind of visuals work, what kind of emotions, what visuals evoke, things like that. So that's kind of that's kind of the charter for that product line, is to deeply understand and advance research effectively. The second part of our business is what we call customer experience, and it's really looking at existing customers. We help companies look at existing customers and see how they are feeling, how they are behaving, how they are operating, and largely through the lens of NPS and CSAT. NPS has been around for almost 12, 13 years now, and not just collecting data, but actioning on the data. That's kind of a big portion of what we do with our CX platform. And later on, you'll also hear from Ken, who's our leader in the CX space, and he runs that business, and he can talk about, he's going to talk about NPS plus, root cause, churn analysis, churn prediction, churn modeling, and all that stuff as to using NPS to determine that. So that's kind of our second part of our platform, and the third part of our platform, again, surveys oriented towards employees. Sonia is not here today, but she's our leader in the employee experience space, and in that, again, we have a couple of different models that we have baked into the platform in terms of measuring culture, measuring effectiveness, even things like during COVID, we kind of have a model for measuring burnout. This COVID experience has obviously created a different kind of set of parameters and environment for employees. And then there are, people are burning out in different ways, but we need to kind of, understanding that and finding out about that is reasonably important for companies to understand how their employees are feeling. As we go on, I think I do want to address the elephant in the room, which is clearly it's COVID. We've all been through it. I don't think a single person in this entire planet has not been affected by it. Whether you're in India, whether you're in the States, or you're in Australia or Singapore or Hong Kong, like everybody is affected by it. And a couple of things I want to talk about. One of at least from our perspective, what have we done? I mean, obviously we service over 10,000 customers. We have a big presence in India. We've gone fully digital. We've gone fully, we kind of call it work from anywhere, not just work from home. We have a lot of groups, team members in India. They've gone to different places. They've started working from there. We've gone full digital, full remote, across the board. I'd say we are a little blessed. Obviously we're a tech company. We're fully digital, and so we can work remotely. We can function remotely. So we are, I think at least we are blessed from that perspective, and we continue to service and deliver. Our data centers are still running. All that stuff is still running, and I think we're building, and we'll talk a lot about all the new tools, technology, even acquisitions we've done this year, just fully digitally, fully remotely. We just finished off an acquisition a couple of days ago in the customer experience space, and we did the whole thing without ever meeting anybody. So I think to some extent we've kind of adapted to the new reality. Whether it's the new norm or not, I don't know. That's a nice, cute little cliche that people can talk about. But I think from an operations perspective, we think we've kind of it is what it is. We play the cards that we've been dealt with, and so we are fully digital and fully operational. I do want to talk about two different use cases, or two different, frankly, great stories that we've helped a couple of our customers, and that kind of speak to the whole kind of adaptation and COVID, realistically. The first one is this is the Boston Convention Center. They're like a typical convention center. They're 100% of their business really comes from people coming to conferences. Simple. And during COVID, obviously conferences went down. However, kind of their operations didn't fully shut down. So they still had vendors coming in. They still had certain different types of customers, not the big conferences, but there were small other groups that were coming in. And they called us frantically and said, like, look, we need a mechanism to kind of screen all these people. It's not just employees, it's employees, vendors, a whole bunch of kind of stakeholders are coming in and out of the, it's a pretty large convention center. And the whole thing wasn't shut down. It was still kind of limping along, or I guess partially operational. And we kind of, we came up with a solution with them to kind of have QR codes everywhere, and then have a set of, obviously, a screener questionnaire that anybody with a cell phone can take, and then they get like they get a certification, or they get like effectively a go no go kind of model. Based on their kind of sensitivities on what can be, what do we need to do when people are indeed symptomatic, or people are feverish, or people have been in contact with somebody who's symptomatic and are feverish. This was mandated by the local government that you could not allow people in. and we kind of put this whole thing system in play in under 24 hours, and that helped the Boston Convention Center realistically to kind of continue operation even in that limited capacity, and without which they would literally they would be 100% dead in the water. At least in this particular case, they were able to kind of continue operations using at least some of the tools and technology that we were able to kind of provide for them really fast within a 24-hour time span. So I think that was, that's kind of an example of how nimble and how operationally smart, I guess, both our team and the Boston Convention Center team were, and they were very helpful also in terms of kind of going through that process. The second one that I want to talk about is the American Cancer Society. So obviously here in the States, the ACS is I think the largest kind of health screening / system and health research system for obviously for cancer. And so far, I think a lot of their kind of operations were still fairly cumbersome. I think they have the largest kind of human subject study in the planet, with almost 400,000 people enrolled in their cancer prevention study. And they are actually credited with, the ACS is credited with kind of linking smoking to cancer. And part of the reason why they were able to do that is because they run these massive studies that spans multiple years, and they're collecting behavioral data over many, many years as time goes by. And as part of that, the ACS came to us and said, like, hey, we need a better way to engage our respondents and our the folks that are part of our system. And as part of that, we became, obviously they used our community platform. We became, they came up with a digital platform for that. And they've been using QuestionPro to kind of engage with all their participants in a more digital way, using apps and phones, and, and using, push notifications and things like that. So they kind of bought their old school system into the new age effectively. So that's something that we are, definitely very, very proud of that we've managed to do. I want to talk about like 4 kind of mega trends that are kind of, I think shaping experiences. We talk a lot about experiences, and I think I wanted to talk today about, effectively 4 things that are happening that are definitely, unique and interesting as we think about it. Clearly the COVID thing, we can't really stop talking about the elephant in the room, but also kind of look at how things are, how we are adapting to the COVID situation, right? I mean, obviously we talked a little bit about we are adapting from an operational perspective, but what are we doing from a tooling perspective to help our customers, right? So during COVID and allow things to kind of, and allow things to kind of keep along with it, right? So the first thing is like, to just accept the fact that, everybody's digital. This particular event, we probably have done like a physical event in Sydney or in India, depending upon where we wanted to do it. But clearly we're doing it digitally. So, 100% of all the interaction is digital. So that's why we can have, first of all, it really connects us together at a global scale, I feel at least. I'm in Austin, Dan's also here in Austin, but Ken is in Hawaii, and then we have 2 team members in India, and then team and customers in Australia. So it's kind of like the wide variety, look at the breadth of kind of how people can get together, clearly in multiple time zones, multiple countries, multiple continents. And so the ability to bring things together digitally is kind of obviously accelerated, 5-10 years maybe because of COVID, realistically. And from a very practical perspective, there are 2 things that I want to kind of, at least kind of highlight for our customers. We've kind of, we are pushing hard with, digital focus groups. Obviously Dan's going to talk a little bit about it, but really I want to kind of highlight that in terms of what Dan's team has been able to produce in terms of as part of our community platform. People who are part of the community, you can invite them to a focus group. You can connect your Zoom line just exactly like the way we are doing it right now. But it is transcribing, and you're able to kind of highlight different pieces of text in real time as if you're running a focus group with 15-20 people realistically. So running a digital focus group is fully kind of operationally, we can make that happen using technology right now. The second thing that we want to highlight is really around live collaboration. So everything is live, everything is real time, at least on the survey side also. So which means like, if 5 people want to edit, 100 people want to edit the survey, very similar to, I guess, Google Docs that we're all familiar with. So the same concept applies to kind of editing and kind of creating surveys and operating on surveys. So these are two key kind of, I guess, constructs, or at least features, you want to call it features, constructs, that are kind of emanating from this kind of like, massive kind of digital adoption, if you will. The second thing we want to talk about is really around, mobile. Clearly mobile is kind of taken over the world. I don't have to say that, but I also kind of, we also think that like it's not just mobile. It's a combination of mobile, social, and visual. So it's kind of like, all these three things, these three constructs are kind of melded together, and we can see that clearly see that in Snapchat and TikTok and everything else, because that's where the puck is headed, realistically. And these stats that you see just obviously are kind of off the chart, like in terms of 100% of the population is on mobile, et cetera, et cetera. So it's kind of, we don't have to kind of like really delve into it. But what are we doing about it? How are we helping our customers trying to kind of navigate this environment? The first thing is, again, we've added in a feature within our survey platform. We're calling that Livecast. It's like anywhere there's a text box, you can click on a button, you can record a video, record an audio. Instead of typing in your text, you can just give it, give audio visual feedback. Which are, obviously emotionally it's richer. People are used to it. People are used to kind of giving out audiovisual feedback. I mean, even a couple of years ago, 5 years ago, definitely people were not that comfortable with, random kind of selfies and selfie oriented videos. But clearly times have changed. And that's the mega trend that's happening, where people are really comfortable giving out audiovisual feedback realistically. So that's kind of one of the things that we've added to the platform. And the second one that I want to kind of just highlight is what we call conversational forms, which are effectively surveys, but running in the form of a chatbot, effectively. So that's kind of we're calling that conversational form. So instead of asking a question, the form factor is a much more kind of engaging and a conversational model. Instead of just saying, hey, click on these buttons, go through the process, it's more like asking a question, waiting for an answer, asking a question, and giving some options and waiting for an answer. So I think these two features are the highlights for kind of that kind of speak to that megatrend. I would argue that we believe that will obviously help our customers kind of tap into that. The third megatrend is really obviously the empowered customer. Everybody's got access to information. Access is 100% universal, and frankly, it doesn't matter where you are, whether you're in the States or India or Germany. It doesn't really matter. Access to information is 100%, given where we are today. And with these access, as a business, if you are running a business, then you also have to kind of really adjust and change and see like, how can you keep your customers blissful and happy and delighted? I think the days of just keeping your customers mediocrely happy is kind of gone, because clearly you're competing in a global marketplace. Your customers need to be like truly delighted. And how do you make that happen? I think as part of our customer experience platform, we help our customers, get understand their customers and see what creates the delight factor. And part of that platform, as part of that, we're introducing this concept of NPS Plus. Like I told earlier on, NPS has been around for quite a while. But what we did we took NPS and we started looking at it and saying, what else can we do with it, right? I mean, obviously with NPS, which is Net Promoter Score, where you can say like, hey, how did you do on a 10-point scale? Would you recommend our business to a friend or a colleague? And that's effectively a measure of loyalty. And that measure kind of like, it generally is considered as kind of a measure of your relationship with your customer. Or at least the strength of your relationship with your customer, to put it more accurately. And what we did was we took that and say like, okay, there are 2 or 3 things that are key elements to that. One is understanding what the root cause of whether you're happy or not with a particular transaction or with a particular interaction. We call it obviously the root cause. Is like, why are you happy? If you're happy with me, why are you happy? If you're sad, or if you're frustrated, why? And we have a model that we've put in play for like really getting to the why of what's happening. And then along with that, we've created a model for predicting churn. And in any business, frankly, churn is the one thing that kills you. If you talk to definitely for tech companies, churn kills you. But I think it's true for almost every other market. Everybody knows repeat customers are your most profitable customers. Acquiring new customers is really expensive, really hard. That's why every time you churn somebody, every time a customer walks away from you, it's actually a huge loss, both from a top line and definitely from massive loss from a bottom line perspective, which means your margins are really gonna get killed if you have a lot of churn. And so to predict churn, we've kind of created a model around looking at the passives, promoters, detractors, and figuring it out like, okay, why are people leaving you? And therefore, these people are also probably going to leave you. So that's the prediction model for churn that we've introduced that Ken's going to probably talk about later on today. With all of you guys. And the final thing is like we also kind of enhanced NPS, and not to be backward looking. If you think about NPS, it's really a backward looking thing, which is like, okay, how have we done? But we also ask the customers like, what should we do? So look forward also. It's like, okay, all right, you know what, this is what we do. Do you like the experience? And what are some good ideas that you have? And then we vote on each other's ideas, and that creates this co-creation experience for the customers. They can vote on what other people have said, and then they can go through that experience realistically. And so I think really like the NPS Plus will help you kind of like navigate an empowered consumer. So that's kind of at least the overarching idea there. And the final thing I want to talk about is what I call at least intrapreneurism, which is a nice way of saying like, look, your employees have a lot of options today, simply put, right? I mean, again, we talked about the empowered consumer is the empowered employee too within the company, and so I think in a roundabout way, another way that we look at it is like, what can we do to kind of harness the collective wisdom of our employee base? How can we treat employees like truly like assets from an intellectual perspective? And one of the things we noticed as we did some research around this is that a lot of systems were there to collect feedback, but we are introducing this concept of a lot of people came to us and said like, we want to be able to ask questions off of each other, and democratizing the process of even asking questions to each other. Not just kind of saying like, okay, HR is the only person that can ask questions. I don't think that makes any sense. I think in the real world, there are employees all over the map in different parts of the business, and managers in different parts of the business have a variety of questions, and they need answers to those questions. How do you democratize that particular process? And we've kind of created a mobile app. We call it Pulse Ask. And so what it does in a nutshell, it allows anybody in the company to post questions to their subgroup, to the group that they belong to, and then other folks in that obviously in that group can answer those questions, and it is done on a periodic basis. And from that perspective, the managers, the operating managers of the company can can get answers to questions really fast from their employees, and the employees are not are able to interact with the platform in a very seamless way, effectively. So those are the few tools and features along each of those kind of broad vectors that we are launching. But in general, we are kind of going down this path of at least from QuestionPro's perspective, I wanted to let everybody know that we have a kind of at least a mantra, at least for ourselves. We want to kind of advance research. I think that's the tagline that we are going with. That is kind of our North Star, if you will. That's part of our mission statement. And you can see what are all the things that we are doing. They all kind of align to that. We want to create better research facilities through technology, clearly, because we're a tech company, we're a software company. That's kind of what we know. And so that's kind of our are things that those are the kind of elements that we are working on right now. These are some quick examples of kind of the LifeCast stuff that I talked about. And NPS, I think, This is an example of NPS plus in action, where Ken talked about that. Ken is gonna go do a detailed demo, I think, about this later on down the road, and that'll give you kind of a very good idea of just converting a regular NPS survey to something that is like rich, both from an interaction perspective as well as kind of actual kind of actionable data perspective. So you get access to all the root causes. You can create a prediction model, which is actually probably the most important thing, because we can create a prediction model, and then clearly you can, after that, you can even create an innovation model on top of that to say, like, okay, what should the company do going forward, which is part of the process. And these are a couple of quick screenshots about Pulse Ask. And so these are kind of, you can see some quick at least screenshots of how people react, and how people are reacting to kind of different questions that the managers are posing. And these questions are not posed by the HR team, but actually by the managers in the company themselves. So we want to democratize that. That's a clearly we think that that's a differentiator. Instead of having the same kind of HR questions in an employee survey, we really want to kind of innovate over there and say, like, no, we're gonna ask questions around around operational parameters of the business, not just kind of the HR parameters of the business. The final thing that I want to kind of leave with you guys, and I'm going to wrap up in about 2 seconds, is I think we came up with this tagline around "We answer to you." Part of the reason why we came up with it is because we've run the company for a long time now, and we've been profitable. We've been growing fairly well over the many years. We've grown from 2 employees to almost 300 employees today. And part of the reason why we've been able to do it is because we've kind of kept our ear to the ground, simply put. So obviously we kind of drink our own Kool-Aid to some extent. We have a very deep relationship with most of our customers in terms of what they want, what they don't want, what they would like to see in the platform, and we kind of listen. Simple. And another way of saying is, and from a deeply personal perspective, I have a beat on almost everything that's going on in this company, and partly that I would like to kind of invite you guys. That's my phone number out there. If you have questions, thoughts, comments, ideas, you can obviously, if you're not in the States, you can WhatsApp me. That's my number out there. You can connect with me on WhatsApp, and I'm definitely going to answer. I pretty much answer all my emails, most of my emails, and I definitely answer all my WhatsApp and other kind of contacts also.